Hey everybody, sorry, I think we're 2 minutes late, but it's David Barry and Terry Gilliam, your host for our show. This is Terry, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but it's our 22nd episode. This is episode number 22. We do this every Monday. We're here to share tips, tricks, education on how to leave California effectively. And each week we have a different realtor with us or a different dignitary. And this week we have Nicole. How do you say your last name?
So it's Canyon.
Canion. Okay. And thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're going down to one of Terry's favorite states, Florida. Right, Terry?
Not one of them. It's my favorite state. That's why I live here.
So, and I had something I wanted to show you, Terry. Let me see if I can pull this off. I'm gonna give it a shot.
We're holding our breath, David.
I know, I know. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. And then if I
Remember the one to the right of that. To the right of that.
to the right
There
of
you
that.
go. There you go.
Look at that. I did it.
Oh, you're such a
I'm proud
genius.
of myself. So welcome to, I'll just read from my screen here, Terry. Leaving California, Fighting Freedom, weekly podcast, episode number 22. And actually, Nicole, sorry you have to listen to all this, but this is probably our 40th episode. Terry and I have been doing these for a long time, but we're actually keeping track from about 6 months ago. And today we have a special guest from Pensacola, Florida. That's where I want to be, Terry. I want to be right. How do I get there? What do I got to do?
Well, you got to add a Southern accent there, boy. I tell you right now, you're going to head to they call it the Redneck Riviera. At least they did when I went to college at Florida State. I don't know if they still call it that or not. It's been discovered. The whole thing is that the Panhandle was an empty, beautiful area when I went to college. I haven't been up there since the 80s. And I know that it's changed a ton, but it's great to have Nicole in the group, a former Californian who relocated to the Panhandle of Florida, and it's great to have her on here. And she's an experienced real estate agent both in California and Florida. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Nicole, is this so you get to live this lifestyle every day? Is this your backyard?
Close to it. It's surreal coming from the Bay Area where we've got, rocky beaches and, a little bit more, dark, where here it's just gorgeous all the time. Clear water, white sand beaches. I live about 20 minutes from it. It's surreal.
Well, I can't wait to get into that. And Terry, I thought since I was trying to be a little more creative with our show, I thought I would just share a couple of slides here before we get it too deep into Pensacola. But really what this show is about and what Terry Gilliam has created and what this whole movement is, it's about people. And these were just some random posts that I pulled up from our group. And it's just so exciting to see people tell their story and say where they went. By the way, Terry, I've never seen one of these photos from one of our members where they were sad or they were crying or they couldn't believe they had to leave. Every one of them. And I'm not going to bore anybody with reading through this, but we have Sarah Michelle she moved to Wisconsin. We've got Steve Becker. He went to Texas Hills. We've got Maricar Berry. Now, no relation to me, Terry, but she went to Central Arizona. I mean, and then we got Greg Eckert. Look at how excited he is. He's moving his stuff and he's super pumped. And then I got one more. We got Jane Perry, went to Cincinnati, Ohio. And then we got Karen Harrison. She moved to Minden. So Terry, hats off to you as always every week on how many people you have actually helped leave California. And you've been such a great resource. So I did a little tribute on episode 22 of our Leaving California Freedom podcast. And then I even put this one in, Terry. You'll be proud of me for this. Check that out. Not too bad, huh?
Wow, look at that. It's David's contact information.
We'll get back to that later. So let's dive in. Terry, I'm going to let you lead us off. And since she's in your state, why don't you start asking a few questions about Pensacola?
Sure. So Nicole, great to have you on again. Can you tell us a little bit of your story? How long you lived in California, why you left, why you chose the Panhandle? And I know Pensacola is not just the only place in the Panhandle. It's very close to Alabama, but the Panhandle goes for hundreds of miles to the east. and I think you cover quite a bit of that. So if you can kind of talk about an overview of those items, that would be a great way to start.
Sure. I born and raised born in San Jose, but raised in Discovery Bay, California, which is a small town in the East Bay Area. My grandfather was one of the well, what do I want to say? Pioneer. We were a pioneer family of Discovery Bay. Moved out from San Jose, and it was slated to be a retirement community, but it was amazing growing up there with our house was one of the only houses on deep water on the levee at the time, ran around barefoot and buck wild. It was great growing up there. And then just lived there until college, moved to Hawaii and moved back to take care of my grandparents who raised me to Discovery Bay. And I never really left. I built an amazing business during the downturn in California where there was a foreclosure market. I got into real estate in 2006. So I watched the market tank and then ended up I worked for agents and brokerages as a broker assistant, developing teams and financial systems and websites, you name it, learned the entire business forward and back, and then started selling in 2010 for hedge funds actually who were buying at courthouse steps and flipping. And I ended up doing in a short period of time, about 1,200 flips in the Bay Area in 5 different counties. And with that, I actually started with the largest hedge fund that was flipping in the Bay Area. I flipped first 3 smaller ones the first year of my career, did 101 listings, sold in 8 months in the market. There was 3 years inventory. And then moved to the biggest hedge fund in the area. And the hedge fund owner gave me the opportunity, like, all right, I'll give you 3 cities to work on and see how you do, because I had only sold the listings before. I hadn't actually acquired the properties and stuff like that. But I built a system that was based on minimizing risk with buying at the courthouse steps. So changing different parameters per city. We're not going to buy houses 1985 or older, certain things to maximize profit. And within 3 months, I replaced every agent that investment group had for 5 counties. So
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's awesome.
It was crazy, but I will say, like, I built my business like I was young. I was 26 when I think I started at 25. My daughter was 5 months old. My husband at the time and I had lost jobs, and I didn't have anything to do but just put my head down and hustle. So it wasn't like it was an opportunity that I just worked my tail off to do.
Mhm.
And looked around 5 years later and was like, wow, look at what I built. So from then I kind of expanded my my career by doing, like, I do speaking. I speak all around the US. Been an instructor for like Keller Williams and for like EXP, different events and stuff like that for Inman News. I do a lot of writing as like experts, real estate finance investment expert for Money Time, Fortune Magazine, constantly doing like a lot of different things for that. So that's essentially my business.
Nicole, how can you accomplish all that and you're not even 25 years old? I mean, that's crazy.
Well, I started when I was 25. I'm 40 now. I've been in the
Oh,
industry.
you don't look over 25. Man, you
No,
got some amazing accolades, and this is going to be a great show. That's awesome. But I imagine you hear that once in a while that you do look young, and that's definitely a good problem to have. So.
yeah. Well, I love what I do. I mean, even today with any market that I work in, I still work in California. I work people on the outgoing predominantly, or even I have a great sphere of influence, people that use me regardless of if I'm in Florida. I have boots on the ground that handles just the day-to-day things that need a presence. And then I'm in California about a week out of every month to meet with people who want to meet face to face. But when you have the systems and you have the reputation that I do, I'm able to keep my business going there, even when I'm traveling back and forth to Florida.
So you're saying you're licensed in California and in Florida, is that right?
California, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and no, I think, yeah, California, Florida, Alabama, Georgia. Yes.
Well, Terry, we found our go-to person, it looks like. What else do you have
Definitely.
you want to ask her, Terry?
Well, no, I wanted to find out how she ended up in Pensacola.
So that's a funny story. I was on an impromptu trip to New Orleans in God 5 days before Christmas in 2020. And I wasn't supposed to be there. I was there with a friend who was like a high roller for Hard Rock Cafe. So we were there like comped at the casino. And I went to a restaurant one night and sat down and somebody's stuff was there. So I sat next to it and this man came out of the bathroom. We ended up talking and he's a Marine. I was raised by a Marine. He's a actual naval aviator from Pensacola. And he wasn't supposed to be there that weekend either. And we talked the whole night, ended up dating from that day on. And within a year, I packed my stuff up and headed out to Pensacola. And the ironic part is that I homeschooled my daughter before moving to Pensacola, and the school that she was homeschooling with was Pensacola Christian. And I had never heard of Pensacola Christian until I met, and then when I met him, I'm like, that's just so weird. My daughter goes to school in Pensacola, and I've never even heard of Pensacola before all this happened. So it
Wow.
was kind of, it sounds hokey, but fate. I didn't believe in fate before that, but I met him. We blended families, and we've been together for God over 3.5 years now.
Wow, that is a great fate story. So, Terry wants to talk about Florida, and I want
Well,
to talk
yeah.
about
So,
Florida
tell
too.
us about the change. Tell us, and most people don't know Discovery Bay. I know Discovery Bay very well. I lived in the East Bay for 35 years, and they called it Disco Bay, right?
Oh yeah, Disco Bay. Live where you play, Disco Bay.
That's right. And Pensacola is very different than Discovery Bay. So, can you tell us about the adjustment that you've made moving to Pensacola from California?
So the one thing I do like about Pensacola is it reminds me of what it looked like and felt like back when I was a kid.
Mm.
So it's the old values, old school, like watch out for your neighbor that I don't really feel like you get that in California anymore. And then also not as developed. So it's nice to have, driving down the road and what most people don't think, this does not look like regular Florida. There is tons of pine trees. And most people don't realize that everybody actually calls this area either whether it be the Redneck Riviera or LA, Lower Alabama, because that's what everybody refers to it down here. It doesn't look like your typical South Florida. But that the weather actually, minus the humidity, the weather is pretty interesting that it's close to what kind of mirrors like the temperatures in the Bay Area of California, like the East Bay, where it tends to be
Mhm.
hotter. We just definitely, the humidity has been a lot to try to get used to. But in terms of weather, it's not a huge change. And then, like I said, it's just nice to have like a lot of the properties here, like the neighborhood where I live in, we're all on half-acre lots. And that was just something that you don't or didn't get in California. So it's just space and not for an exorbitant amount like you would have to pay for if you try to find land in California. So it's just overall a really great vibe. One thing I do miss though is that when I lived in the Bay Area, I had a lot of business in New York and Hawaii. And so it was like, and then LA. So 5 hour drive to LA, 5 hour flight to New York, 5 hour flight to Hawaii. So it's the hardest thing has been, even though Pensacola's got a great airport, you have to go somewhere to get somewhere else. So it does take longer to travel places.
I'm guessing you have to go to Atlanta. Is that right? Or Dallas?
Typically, Dallas and Atlanta are the two major hubs. Charlotte sometimes just depends on which airline and what hub they're flying in and out of.
Okay. And then can you talk about going east? Pensacola is pretty much the furthest you can go west in Florida, and then you cross to go to Alabama, as I recall. And then going east, you've got the panhandle of Florida, which, of course, if anybody saw the Truman Show, that was, I think that was Niceville. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Seaside,
Oh,
Seaside.
Seaside. That's right. That was Seaside. And really, it's kind of idyllic like that, isn't it? There's some great places where people can go. You can spend as much money as you want to, or you can be, I assume, in older communities where you're close to the water, yet you're not having to spend $1 million to get near the ocean.
So I work predominantly Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama, all the way to about Panama City Beach. And in there, there's so many idyllic communities that are so different from each other. And so there's pretty much something for everybody. Alabama, Orange Beach, especially in the summertime, Pensacola, like I liken them to the Bay Area, like the communities out there. That's like the Santa Cruz. Like they're a little bit more hopping. They've got more activities, things of that nature. There's a more diverse crowd. The further you go down 30A, you kind of go into like what I like to consider Monterey, Pacific Grove, Carmel type vibe, where you have the upscale restaurants, you've got that whole like private beach vibe, and it's absolutely beautiful. And all these different cities, I frequently do videos on my social media, on my TikTok and on my Instagram, showcasing these different cities within 38 Seaside. If you know me and you follow me long enough, you know Seaside is like my love. I love that place. It's beautiful. They did shoot the Truman Show there, and it's just got this, it's idyllic. I can't say anything else. It's like a dream. It's absolutely beautiful.
That's great. And while I'm thinking of it, because I know it's going to come up, tell us about your experience. Have you experienced any hurricanes? What that's been like, if you have, or any threats of hurricanes? I know that's forefront of people's minds when they hear Gulf Coast. So if you can speak to that, that'd be great.
So I haven't physically experienced a hurricane hit here since I moved here. There's been threats, especially with like my husband. He's like the HERVAC type person. He had for the time when I first moved here, he was responsible for having to move all the planes out of Pensacola to a place if they had a threat of a hurricane. So we've had some crazy storms. Like my husband, we and I were driving through apparently a tornado coming home from the World Series in Houston a couple years ago, and he was just bound and determined we were going to make it through home, and we did before it hit. But that's probably the closest I've been to like a real heavy storm.
Okay. And then, have you experienced, well, has your husband experienced a hurricane there, since he's in charge of moving the planes and things? And can you tell us what that was like? And I know that the further you get away from the ocean, the safer you are, right? Because it's really storm surge that you have to worry about. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. He was here through Sally, and the thing I hear him say the most about Sally was that Sally was kind of a freak, where it wasn't a high velocity wind, but it was just that it was so slow moving. It did more damage. But typically, like when we get ready, we're assuming that there's going to be a storm. You know, we know plenty in advance. We're given the opportunity to be able to try to figure out where we're going to go and see where the storm's not going to hit. And that for us is north. As you can see on that map there, we head up, we typically will head up towards Atlanta, but it just,
Okay.
you don't necessarily have to go that far, but it just depends on like, you know, where do you have family or where do you have something to, you know, where you feel comfortable far enough away from it. And my parents moved here after I did. They followed us here. My dad is definitely afraid of storms, but he's actually doing really, really well with it. We've had a couple times where we've had potential scares. They didn't hit us. They hit us actually, they hit closer to Panama City most recently, but even he's starting to get comfortable with it. Like it's very, people make it seem scarier than it really is, in all honesty. And then the news kind of focuses on the most negative aspects of it, but it's like, it's not as bad as a lot of people kind of make it out to be.
Well, and everything's built for it too, right? The high-rise condos, everything's built for it. They've got storm shutters typically on them. And again, unless you're having to deal with storm surge, you can shut your place up pretty well so that you're protected from all of that.
Agreed. Yep, we have storm shutters ourselves. We haven't had to use them yet, but most of the houses here do come equipped, and most of the houses here aren't constructed like they are in California. I mean, they are built to take a punch, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Nicole, do you happen to have another map that might be better? And I was curious because you had said that you're licensed in 4 states, which is amazing. When you talk about these different areas, price points, and basically you said that you can get anything you want. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. And do you want to use this map, or do you have something else?
This map's actually fine.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're looking like Pensacola in itself, so Pensacola, I do, and it can be found on like my social media. I'll post it in the next couple of days, but every month I do market reports for California markets that I serve, and Florida and Alabama. And Pensacola is built up of a bunch of different cities within it. So you've got Pensacola proper, Pensacola Beach. Pensacola Beach properties tend to be more expensive. Obviously they're on the beach. And then there's Pensacola, north of Pensacola, where I live, is called Pace. And Pace is a great city. People love it because it's one of the top school districts in the state.
Mhm.
Santa Rosa County is one of the top, I think, 18 distinguished school districts in the state of Florida, which is another reason why I was happy to move here. So Gulf Breeze and Pace both have great schooling. Gulf Breeze is closer to Pensacola Beach. It's weird how the county wraps around because those are Santa Rosa County and Escambia County is like right in the middle. But then so Gulf Breeze and Pace tend to have a little bit higher prices. Pensacola proper, the city, there's a wide range. You've got stuff that's down in like the 200s up to, I have a flip right now that I'm holding on to, and we have it priced at 450, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, completely remodeled, new everything on 2.3 acres. And
Wow.
450.
for 450.
That's awesome.
When can you find that in California, Terry?
That was 30 years ago, David.
By the
Right.
way, I didn't tell you this, Nicole, but I was born in Fort Lauderdale, but I moved out of Florida when I was like 9 years old. And I have driven through Pensacola. It is very beautiful. I've been there before. But the thing I was curious when you were talking about all the different cities is what is the metro population? I'm curious for those of our listeners that maybe they don't really know Pensacola too well. How many people are we talking?
You know what? I honestly have to look up population. I know market numbers like you wouldn't believe, but let me look up the population.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, it's also a military area, as Nicole was kind of alluding to, with Navy, has a large Navy presence there, and Marines.
Yeah, so they're about 53,000 for the city Pensacola. And
Mhm.
like Terry said, there is a huge military presence. There's a number of like this is the cradle of aviation here in Pensacola. So there's NAS Pensacola where they have like the flights aviation museum. They have the Blue Angels. We're the home of the Blue Angels, and that is a huge draw. People love that. You
Mhm.
can go out a few days a week and different places around the city and catch them practicing and stuff. And people just absolutely love that. So, I mean, it's up and developing as well. I mean, I tell a lot of people, especially who are looking to move somewhere where they can move from California and either have no or very small mortgage, like my parents per se, they sold their house in Discovery Bay. And then they were able to buy something here, cash and pocket half of the rest of their proceeds from their house in California. And my dad just, he never had the opportunity to retire before that. And now he's retired. He's loving it. He's in his late 70s, almost 80s. And my mom is actually working at base. She works with kids and stuff. So she does that part time. And it's just, they have not been able to breathe.
Mhm.
So financially, to see them come out here, be able to actually just work my mom, because she has to keep busy, but work a little bit, but really get to enjoy life. And what they love about the area is that it's like old school values. It's old school, like you can have conversations with people out in public and it's just neighborly, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So I want to get back to what you said at the beginning and the top of our show. You were talking about how you travel out to California and you deal with a lot of those markets out there. And it sounds like you help a lot of Californians that are thinking about relocating. So is that kind of what you were saying? Is that when you travel back, you're helping your clients still in California and making that trek, and you do that once a month?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. So it's kind of hard to leave the this market that I've known forever. I mean, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I still love it. It's hard for me to leave it completely. And then, building such a huge, robust business, knowing the markets, and like I said, I very much focus on being like the market's economist. So versus, hey, it's always a good time to buy or sell. Like most realtors, I come
Right.
from
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
vantage point of here's what the market's actually doing.
Right.
And if you can hold on for this amount, then hold on, quite possibly for another year or for this. I like to be able to give options other than just, oh, it's a great time to buy and sell. Like I like to be able to do that. And so for people in California where, either they have something to sell that they can get out and figure out where to go, where they can live well, or maybe they have a harder time, they're going to have a harder time and less proceeds. I like to be able to be that person to help them find what's going to work best for them in the future.
That's awesome.
Great.
And Terry has put together 350 different realtors across the country, and we pride ourselves on this. And every guest, every week, we always talk about, we don't want realtors that they just say, oh, well, it's time to sell, or, why don't you come to my city? And as soon as they get off the plane, they're like, okay, let's go look and buy a house. Before you even get to that point, you have to take them through the city. And you really have to have that heart to heart. Do you see yourself and your family living in this community? And some people, in my market in Las Vegas, they either love it or they hate it, mostly in my market. So we need to find out if they can be there. And so Terry's done an amazing job. I didn't mean to cut you off, Terry, but Terry's done such an amazing job of hiring people that are passionate about helping families, and they're not just looking to make a sale. What were you going to say, Terry?
Yeah, that's okay, David. So, Nicole, can you talk about your market, what you've seen over the last several months, and what the trends are?
So here in Pensacola, things have actually cooled down from when I moved here. When I moved here, and actually, let me speak to when my parents bought their house, there was 4 houses on the market that they
Oh,
could choose from.
my
And
gosh.
as of today, we're in like the couple hundreds. So the market definitely has slowed down here. And the things that I'll notate about this area, because it is a different market, is one, the employment market is up and coming. It doesn't have the wages that you would typically have in other metros around the United States. So that's one thing that I've had to see as someone who sells and even someone who flips myself is our market's more seasonal when it comes to the higher end properties because incomes don't keep up with the cost of living here right now, and the people that you're basing on buying the more high end homes, where you consider high end here, are military or people moving from out of state into the area that have equity to purchase. Having said that, though, it's a great investment because this area just keeps growing and growing and growing. um, Navy Fed moved here from Virginia. They've got a huge, huge base here. There's a number of different industries that are looking at coming here to Pensacola because we have space to grow and build industry. So I think it would be one of the places in the United States where you're looking for a good return in the next 10 years. This region is going to be fantastic. And then to speak to the stuff on 30A, 30A is the highway that runs between Destin and Panama City Beach. And those were all the little beach communities that I told you that were very small and idyllic. Every different community has a different vibe to it, and all of the different markets there are very different. You can get condos there in the low millions. You can get homes on the beach for 20 million. It just depends what your price range is. But these, I know for especially for my investors, have been great returns on Airbnb rentals. Currently, there's no Airbnb things in place for Airbnbs not to be able to operate. So
Mhm.
it's very friendly where that's concerned. But there's, I have a couple clients that I've actually picked up recently. I think you gave me one that was coming to Fort Walton Beach, that you can buy something with a nice pool close to the beach in Fort Walton Beach around 450. Being that close, I mean, if you're from anywhere in California and you want to get anywhere close to the beach where you're 5, 10, 15 minutes away, you're talking in the millions just like that.
Yeah.
Here, you can find a nice house with great amenities for around 450.
That's great.
And for those people that are watching and they don't know a lot about Pensacola, you definitely are an expert on real estate. There's no question. Let's talk about the fun stuff. So what's there to do in Pensacola, and what are some of the things that people could really look forward to if they had this on their radar and were thinking about Northern Florida?
So the beaches are a huge draw, and I am a beach girl through and through. I surfer as well. One thing I will say, there's no surfing here, not like we're used to in California or Hawaii. I grew up partially between California and Hawaii, and I will say, as much as I love Hawaii, the beaches here with the white sand and the clear water is just, they're stunning. Like I said, I love Hawaii more than anybody, but I will say the beaches here are beautiful. And there's like between Pensacola Beach, there's and Destin is about an hour east of us.
Mhm.
There's water slides and there's go-kart tracks, and those seem to be very they run abundant down here, which is nice if you have kids, especially finding fun things like that to do. And they're not run down. I hate to say it, but the Bay Area, wouldn't even take my daughter to like the little golf ranges because you didn't know what was going to happen there. But a lot of fun things like that. A lot of excursions you can do out in the water. There's Crab Island in Destin where you can go and it's like basically a big sandbar, and you're just out there hanging out and water up to your knees if you're not comfortable with water. And so many fun things to do. Like I said, I do a lot of showcasing of different things between Pensacola, Gulf Shores in Orange Beach, and then 30A of like different things to do, and then also things to do during the holidays and different times of year. Mardi Gras is huge down here. Everybody just loves their Mardi Gras.
Mhm.
Big ordeal. I feel like there's always something to do down here.
I'll bet. And Terry alluded to it a little bit earlier. We talked about getting around because that's always a big concern for our members that are thinking about relocations. Um, do you have any traffic jams like you do in LA and San Francisco in your area?
It's no, it's so funny because people here that are from here, which God bless their heart, they don't know, like they just don't want their areas to turn into like an LA or something like that. But they're like, oh, traffic is terrible. And I'm like, really not so much, but it's the traffic jams here are like because they're building infrastructure that needs to go in, but they're not like 2, 3 hours. I would take, if I had a meeting in San Francisco to drive home to Discovery Bay in the middle of the week before COVID, it would be 3 hours
That's right.
in traffic. Nothing of the sort here. And traffic typically runs busiest like when the kids get out of school until about 5:30, and then the roads are pretty much desolate. But
And
one thing I do want to speak
go ahead.
about, though,
Go
because
ahead.
this was important to me, I was on the Epoch Times leaving California, thanks to Terry. And what I spoke about was about education. And I know a lot of people on these sites really are focused on education where the kids are concerned. And my daughter went from private school to 1 semester at public school in third grade at California to back to private school and to me homeschooling her. And she's in public school here in Florida. She's finishing her 8th grade year, straight A's, all honors classes. They have honors classes in seventh and eighth grade here especially in the pristine school districts like we're in. She's in the Beta Club, which is a leadership organization through community service that she got. She didn't just get handed to her, she earned by her grades and her attendance and other things. She's won softball competitions and division titles, and now she's getting into the girls Olympic weightlifting team for high school next year, where they just won
Wow.
state.
Mm.
It's just the schooling that's here and the opportunities are just so robust compared to what we were working with in California. And it's been the best thing. She's just blossomed so
Hey,
much.
hey, Nicole, how many transgenders does she have to compete against?
None, because DeSantis actually believes that women should be in women's sports.
Oh, how close-minded.
I know, right? We're
And
terrible.
Terry, where do you think she gets her drive and her passion and her competition from? Where do you think
She's
that comes
experienced hell and moved to heaven. That's how she's experienced it. That's we've all experienced that.
You know, Nicole, it's funny. Every week, one of the weekly themes we talk about is we actually had a guest. We had one of our clients on a couple weeks ago. It was probably episode 18, Terry, and they brought a guest that left California, and they were in tears and they were emotional, and they said, I can't do this to my kids. I cannot do this to my kids anymore, so we have to leave. What California is doing to the children in the schools and what Terry just alluded to, it's so sad. And I was wondering if you had any experience in that with your relocations and people saying, I just can't do this to my kids, or, do you get that a lot?
I get a lot of people that are concerned for their kids. And I was for my daughter, and I had a pretty contentious divorce. And even now that things have evened out, my ex-husband and his fiance are like, you know what, the best thing we could have done is send Jaden to just get out of the state. She this is gonna sound rude, but people in my Epoch Times thought I was kind of snotty for saying this, but like California especially, they cater to the lower end of the spectrum, and everybody that is a gifted student is pretty much left to their own devices. And my biggest thing was I went to Stanford. I was accepted to Stanford as a freshman in high school and went through summer school there. I wanted her to have the same type of opportunities that those just weren't available to her at this day and age. And where she's concerned now, she's getting into the Naval Academy as a freshman this summer to do a summer STEM program. And it's just like getting out of that bubble in California where you think it's hopeless. Because I get so many people who do feel like they can't stay there because they want a better future for their children. They don't want the normal in California to be their child's normal. And I do get that a lot.
You know, speaking of California, and this was another theme that we've seen a lot. We actually get California, our members in the groups, they say that they're kind of gun shy when they get to new communities. And some of them really don't want to, you know, brag or say, yeah, I left California. And they find that some of the people, the reception that they get is that, oh, well, don't be bringing your politics here. Don't be bringing all your messes from California into Pensacola. But every week we say the same thing. The people that are leaving California aren't trying to bring it with them. And so with your relocation people, have you seen that number one, have you seen them kind of fearful of saying, hey, we're from California? And do they have any kind of reservations about that? Is that something that you can talk on?
It's a constant fear. Myself, I kind of sit back and I watch. I'm very much an observer. Moving here, if you were to go online to any forum here in Florida, we're full, we don't want anybody here, don't come here. And they have those people, but I notice most of them are like what I call the keyboard gangsters. You don't see that out in the community, but it's a very real fear. People do fear that they are going to be, cast out because they're from California. Now, one thing I will say, because I work in flips and I work with contractors, a lot of them, is that I don't tell contractors that I'm not from that state and that I'm not from there, because especially if they hear you're from California, the price goes up.
That's right.
That's the only thing that I will say that I've noticed. When my parents moved here, I told my dad, "You stop telling people you're from California. You're going to pay double than what you should be paying." But it's not like a fear that people should be like, that's the reason why they're not coming. They shouldn't, because people really are more brash online than they ever would be in person. I've never had somebody approach me or a client or anybody with rudeness about them being from out of state. It's all a lot of the hype online and people just running their mouths.
Terry, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because you deal with way more people than I do on leaving California.
Yeah, if they're rude, it's probably because they're from New York and they've moved down there and they just haven't learned to be nice yet. That's typically who it is the New Yorkers. Because I get them around here, they're like, So anyway, hey, Nicole, let me ask you this. One thing that I want to bring up also, we've talked about hurricanes and tornadoes. Can you talk about homeowners insurance? Because I know that's people are commenting in the groups that homeowners insurance has gone up a lot in Florida. And can you give us your experience with that, what you saw in California and what you're seeing in California since you still do business there, and what you're seeing in your area of Florida?
Sure. That was actually the biggest change with my real estate business and getting acclimated to doing business in Florida was the insurance aspect. So in California, we don't have like a 4-point inspection, wind mitigation inspection, and all of these different things are to test certain components in your home to see how they would, the age effects efficacy that's left, how they would weather a storm. Because the insurance companies get hammered here so much, and there's a lot that goes into it. I could probably talk for an hour about that, but I won't, is that, the premiums have gone up. So that's one thing people do need to be aware of when they are looking to purchase in Florida, and not just in my region, but throughout Florida, because the hurricanes, there's certain things that, like I said, in California, they don't really pay attention to. So I'll just go over like the 4-point is they cover like a roof, make sure that your roof is within 10 years of life left on it. If it has less than 10 years of life, your insurance is going to be more expensive, or they may not insure it at all. So it just depends, depending on how many years life. When we purchased our house here, Rich and I, when we bought a house together, we had, I think, about 8 years left on our roof. And I was able to negotiate getting the roof repairs like covered in half, and we got, money in escrow or something like that for it. And then we ended up within the first year getting our, we got interim insurance that was way higher. Within the year, we got the new roof put on and the insurance came down significantly. But then the other aspects of the 4 point, they want to make sure that you've got your AC is taken care of. And I think this is actually a good thing for buyers, especially that when they're getting into a home, they don't get into a home that they're paying a lot for, that they realize, oh, now I've got an AC going out. I've got a roof that needs to be done. I have windows that aren't secure enough to withstand a hurricane, things of that nature. So California, I see moving a little bit more towards, sorry, I'm like all of a sudden going,
Where'd you go?
I know, all of a sudden it decided it was going to go black
The
on me.
lights went out in Florida. That was when the lights went out.
There it is. But I noticed in California with the fire areas that where the fires have been a lot in the last 10 years, I see those insurances going up. And I have a feeling that California is going to start going towards that type of view that Florida does on some of the insurance, and making it a little bit more prevalent in real estate transactions. But overall, yeah, it definitely, insurance is going to be a key thing for people here in Florida for the unforeseeable future, or for the foreseeable future. The other thing that I've actually looked at is I look at foreclosure trends and stuff like that. And people who are from here, have been here for a long time, are not able to, it's not that they can't pay their mortgage or things of that nature, the insurance is on their home because they can't get new roofs put on. They can't afford some of the other things that are required to have a decent insurance rate here. A lot of people in some of the forums around here are saying like, I can't afford this. My insurance went up X amount per year. It puts my mortgage payment out of reach for me, because I had,
Wow.
like I stated before, the oh, of course, wages aren't in keeping, especially for a lot of people who are from here. More so people who are from here, though.
Okay.
So as the time always seems to go by so fast, here we are coming up on 45 minutes. I feel like we started 5 minutes ago on episode 22. One of the questions that I always love to ask, and I could see that you probably have some great stories, and really our groups are about stories. I mean, this is about, Terry's created a forum of groups that share their stories, and that's what probably educates more members than anything. But then having experts like you come on our show and be able to give out important information is so helpful. And this is a big decision, Nicole. I mean, I'm sure that when you said, I think I'm going to leave this area this is my home and I'm going to go live somewhere else. It's huge. But I always ask, do you have anything that stands out? Any stories of clients, or any great stories that you can share of someone that left California? They didn't even have to leave California, but they just relocated somewhere that you serve them.
Oh, I have a lot of different stories, but I will say the ones that mean the most to me are the ones who are able to leave the state and find a better financial freedom. Those are more numerous than any other stories that I have, are the ones that are it's so hard for them to have just normalcy in life, much less all the extras, or even like time. As a parent, having the time with your kids is prominent. And when you have to work to a certain degree just to be able to make ends meet and not be able to be with your kids and give them all that you want to, yeah, you might take a pay cut going somewhere else, but what is that affording you in life and the fullness of life where your family and your kids are concerned? So those would happen to be probably some of the best stories that I appreciate, is seeing people coming from a place of stress being able to move to a place where they can take a breath.
Yeah. So you're actually looking at a financial snapshot for your clients, and you're really helping them not only make the best decision for their family, but you're helping them out financially. Because this is, I mean, let's face it, your home ownership, most cases, is your biggest asset that you have in your life. So hats off to you, Nicole. I really appreciate you helping clients the way you do. Did I miss anything, Terry, or did we miss anything about Pensacola, Florida?
No, if you're a normal person, please come to Florida. We'd love to have you here. 360 or 350,000 people per year moving to Florida right now, David. That's 800 people a day, 365 days a year. And they say that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. So come on down while it's still affordable. And look, the weather's spectacular. We had almost 4 inches of rain over the last 2 days. I don't know about Nicole, but here in Orlando, almost 4 inches of rain in 2 days, which is great. Keeps everything green. And it's going to be in the low 70s for the next 7 days. So we'll take that. It's incredible, and no humidity this time of year to speak of. I mean, of course, we just had rain, so we'll have some, but it's not bad at all. It's a beautiful time of year to be here. It makes up for July and August.
And Nicole, we would love for you if you have any closing thoughts or closing comments that you want to make. And also we want you to say your phone number. Please give your contact information out if somebody's thinking about relocating. And maybe you might want to mention the states that you're licensed in, and that you can actually help some of our California members if they're actually thinking and looking for somebody that has the sense and the experience to be able to help them sell their home and maybe get to a new state. So please share your contact and any closing thoughts you might have.
Absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll go on the Leaving California page and post my contact information on a form and then all of my social media accounts so that people can follow. If you guys want to log in or go onto TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, you can either follow me, friend me. I'm very transparent. I love meeting new people and hearing your stories. My phone number is still a California number. It's 925-813-5254. You can call, text, shoot me a message. And then my email address is Nicole, Nicole, Brown, Brown, which I just had a name changed. Nicole Brown, REA @iCloud.com. And again, I'll go on and post stuff on the Leaving California site, and then also weekly do some market updates for both California, Florida, and Lower Alabama. And anytime anybody has wants more information or wants to follow my stuff on what the happenings are and the festivals that I go to and everything, feel free to follow me and get more information.
You know, since you have so much experience, I am going to ask one more question. And I usually bring this up. I forgot to say this one. So we have our members, they're watching this. Maybe they're watching the recorded version, or maybe they're watching live right now. And they're thinking, you know, I think I need to leave, but I'm just not sure. And they're on the fence. And maybe they just need to hear something, or and every day they wake up and it's the same thing. They don't take any action and they're just sitting in this spot. If you could give them one piece of advice for somebody that's thinking, you know, maybe I should go, but I don't know, I'm really comfortable and my family and my friends are here. What would you tell somebody that was watching this show that wasn't sure?
Don't disqualify yourself. I see it with buyers, I see it with sellers, but I see it with people leaving the state or painting over leaving the state. You don't know what you don't know, and the grass definitely could be greener on the other side. And if you have the ability to go and actually see new places and experience different places before you move, do that. I mean, I didn't have an opportunity to really decide where I wanted to go. It was kind of decided for me when we decided to blend families. But I knew before I met Rich, my husband, that I was leaving California. As soon as my divorce was final, I was planning actually to go to Texas. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And yeah, there are some changes. You know, California is idyllic with, everybody says the landscape, absolutely. But so many aspects of life, like finance, your kids, everything, they're so worth you taking the step and showing your kids and your family that you can take that step for them and for yourself, and not spend life kind of disqualifying yourself with what if I had done this.
Great advice. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed episode 22, and we'll see you next week, episode 23. Hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to helping you guys with your exit of California. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.